The automatic doors of St. Catherine's Hospital emergency room exploded open at 2:47 a.m. Marcus Rivera had been restocking trauma bay supplies when the chaos erupted, a sound he knew too well. Screaming, the metallic smell of blood, the frantic shuffle of shoes on linoleum. GSW to the chest, 18-year-old male, BP dropping. Paramedics rushed through with a gurney, wheels shrieking against the floor. The teenager's white t-shirt had turned crimson, his face the color of ash. Marcus's hand stopped mid-motion, a box of gauze suspended in air. Something inside him clicked, a switch he'd tried to bury for 2 years. "Move, move, move," lead nurse Jessica Chen shouted, her voice pitched with panic. The night shift scrambled. Todd Martinez, a veteran ER nurse with 15 years' experience, rushed toward the trauma bay but froze when he saw the arterial spray painting the walls in rhythmic spurts. Marcus moved. Not running, not panicking, just moving with the fluid precision of someone who'd done this 100 times in places where hesitation meant death. He was beside the gurney before anyone realized he'd crossed the room, his fingers already finding the femoral artery through the blood-soaked jeans. "Pressure here," he said quietly, his voice steady as stone. "Someone get me a trauma kit, now." The paramedic stared at him. "Who are?" "The kit now." Jessica grabbed supplies, her hands shaking as she passed them over. Marcus's hands didn't shake. They never shook during the moment, only after when the adrenaline drained and the ghosts came back. He compressed the artery with exactly the right pressure, his fingers remembering what his mind tried to forget. The bleeding slowed. "Vitals?" he asked. The monitoring nurse stammered. "BP 70/40, heart rate 130, O2 sat dropping to 88. Start 2 large-bore IVs, push fluids wide open, type and cross for 6 units and call the OR. Tell them we're coming up in 5 minutes. Marcus's eyes never left his patient. The teenager's eyes fluttered, consciousness slipping. "Stay with me," Marcus said, his voice softer now. "I've got you. You're going to be okay." Dr. Raymond Patel burst through the curtain, still tying his trauma gown. "What do we?" He stopped, taking in the scene. The new nurse, the quiet one who'd barely spoken 50 words in 2 weeks, had the situation completely controlled. "Single GSW to upper left chest, likely lung involvement, possible subclavian artery nick," Marcus reported, his voice crisp and clinical. "Patient's name is Daniel. He's stable for now, but we need surgery in the next 10 minutes or we'll lose him." Patel nodded, impressed despite himself. "Good work, nurse." Rivera. Within 6 minutes, Daniel was in the OR. Marcus stepped back from the gurney and only then did he look down at himself. Blood covered his scrubs from chest to knees. His hands were painted red. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, he wasn't in San Diego anymore. He was in a mud brick compound outside Ramadi, holding a different young man, hearing different screams. "Hey, Earth to Rivera." Jessica's voice snapped him back. She stood with Todd, both staring at him with expressions he couldn't quite read. Suspicion, curiosity, he couldn't tell. "That was," Jessica paused, searching for words. "Where did you learn to move like that?" Marcus pulled off his gloves with deliberate slowness, disposing of them in the biohazard bin. "Previous job," he said simply. "Previous job," Todd crossed his arms, his lips curling into a smirk. "What, you work at a shooting range or something? Most new nurses would have frozen up." "I don't freeze." Marcus's tone was flat, factual, not boasting, just stating reality. "Clearly." Jessica exchanged a glance with Todd. "Still, that was pretty intense for someone who's only been here 2 weeks. Beginner's luck, I guess." Marcus said nothing. What could he say? That luck had nothing to do with it. That he'd performed this exact scenario 17 times in combat zones across 3 countries. That the last time his best friend had bled out in his arms despite everything Marcus knew, everything he'd trained for. He turned toward the staff locker room. "Where are you going?" Jessica called after him. Shift doesn't end for 4 more hours. To change, Marcus said without turning around. These scrubs are compromised. Todd snorted after Marcus disappeared through the door. Compromised? Who talks like that? Guy's weird. Weird doesn't cover it, Jessica muttered, watching the door swing closed. Did you see his face? Zero emotion, like he was restocking shelves instead of saving a kid's life. In the locker room, Marcus stood before the small mirror above the sink. Blood smeared his forearms despite the gloves. He turned on the water, watching pink swirl down the drain. His reflection stared back, brown eyes tired beyond their 34 years, jaw tight, a small scar above his left eyebrow from shrapnel in Kandahar. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Commander Harris, his former SEAL team leader. Heard you started civilian work. How's the quiet life treating you, Doc? Marcus didn't respond. Instead, he scrubbed his hands raw, changed into fresh scrubs, and returned to his station. Jessica and Todd had moved on, now clustered around the nurse's station sharing coffee and conversation. They didn't invite him over. They never did. That was fine. Better, even. Marcus wasn't here to make friends. He was here to disappear into routine, to find peace in the predictable rhythm of vital signs and medication carts, to prove to himself that he could save lives without the sound of gunfire and the weight of a rifle. But as he reorganized the supply cart with military precision, checking and double-checking every piece of equipment, he couldn't shake the feeling that his past was a shadow he could never quite outrun. Behind him, Jessica whispered to Todd, $5 says robot nurse doesn't last 6 months. Marcus heard every word. He just didn't care enough to respond. Not yet, anyway. 6 weeks into his tenure at St. Catherine's, Marcus Rivera had become the ER's favorite punching bag. It started small. Whispered comments about his robot demeanor, jokes about his inability to smile, the way he ate lunch alone in his truck instead of joining the break room banter. But by week 3, the mockery had evolved into something sharper, more deliberate. Hey, Rivera, Todd's voice boomed across the nurse's station on a Tuesday morning. Did you actually crack a smile over there, or is your face just malfunctioning? Laughter rippled through the group. Marcus continued entering patient data into the computer, his fingers moving with mechanical efficiency. He didn't look up. Jessica leaned against the counter, coffee cup in hand. Come on, Marcus, don't you have a sense of humor? We're just having fun. I'm working, Marcus replied, his tone neutral. Yeah, we noticed, Todd said, walking over to peer at Marcus's screen. Jesus, man, you write novels for every patient note. Patient presents with mild epistaxis, onset approximately 1400 hours, blood flow controlled with direct pressure applied for 5 minutes, vital signs stable throughout intervention. It's a bloody nose, dude, not a mission report. Marcus's jaw tightened imperceptibly. The truth was, his documentation was military-style, precise, detailed, leaving nothing to assumption. In combat zones, sloppy notes got people killed, but he couldn't explain that without opening doors he'd welded shut. Thoroughness prevents errors, Marcus said simply. Thoroughness? Jessica laughed. It's called overthinking. You spend 20 minutes prepping equipment for a simple IV start. I've seen you count gauze pads 3 times before a dressing change. It's obsessive. What they called obsessive, Marcus called survival. In Ramadi, running out of supplies mid-procedure meant watching a brother die. Every seal on every package mattered. Every backup plan had a backup. But civilian nurses wouldn't understand. Couldn't understand. Better safe than sorry, Marcus murmured, closing the patient chart. Better safe than sorry, Todd mimicked in a high-pitched voice. Several nurses giggled. Bro, you sound like a training video. Do you ever just relax? Marcus stood, gathering his stethoscope and penlight. I'm going to check on the patient in Bay 4. Of course you are, Jessica called after him. Because God forbid you take a 5-minute break like a normal human being. In Bay 4, Marcus found his sanctuary. Mr. Chen, a 72-year-old with pneumonia, slept peacefully, oxygen flowing at 2 liters. Marcus checked the IV line, adjusted the blanket, and reviewed the medication schedule. Simple, routine, no one bleeding out, no explosions, no screaming. "You're very thorough, young man." Marcus turned. Mr. Chen's wife sat in the corner chair, her kind eyes watching him. He'd been so focused he hadn't noticed her. "Just doing my job, ma'am." "No," she said softly. "You do more than that. I've watched you with my husband. You care. Not all of them do." She gestured toward the hallway where laughter still echoed. "They don't see it, but I do." Marcus felt something crack in his chest. He nodded once, unable to trust his voice, and left the bay. The breaking point came during Thursday night shift. The ER was slammed, flu season colliding with a multi-car pileup on Interstate 5. Every bed full, patients in hallways, doctors shouting orders over the chaos. At 11:47 p.m., a 56-year-old construction worker named James Turner crashed. Code Blue Bay 7, Code Blue Bay 7. Marcus was closest. He reached Turner's bedside in seconds, already mentally running through ACLS protocols. The monitor showed ventricular fibrillation, a heart rhythm incompatible with life. "Starting compressions," Marcus announced, positioning his hands with perfect precision on Turner's sternum. He'd done this so many times he could do it blind. 2 inches deep, 100 compressions per minute, allowing full chest recoil between each push. The code team assembled around him. Jessica arrived with the crash cart, Todd with the intubation equipment, Dr. Patel barking orders. "Switch," Todd said after 2 minutes. "I'm fine," Marcus replied, not missing a beat. His compressions maintained perfect rhythm, metronome steady. Sweat beaded on his forehead, but his arms showed no fatigue. "Dude, you need to switch. That's protocol." "I said I'm fine." Marcus's voice carried an edge Todd had never heard before, something hard, something that made Todd step back instinctively. For 6 minutes, Marcus performed compressions with unwavering precision. His mind was elsewhere, in a different desert, performing CPR on Corporal Danny Mitchell while mortars fell around them. Danny hadn't made it, but Turner would. Marcus wouldn't allow anything else. "We've got a pulse," Dr. Patel shouted. "Sinus rhythm, good work, people." Marcus stepped back, his scrubs soaked with sweat. Turner's chest rose and fell with the ventilator. Alive. The team dispersed to other patients, crisis averted. Jessica approached, her expression unreadable. "That was impressive. Most people can't maintain compressions for that long." "Most people aren't trained properly," Marcus said, stripping off his gloves. "Trained properly," Jessica's eyebrow arched. "What, you take some special CPR class or something?" Marcus met her eyes, and for a moment she saw something that made her breath catch. Something cold. Something that had seen things she couldn't imagine. "Something like that," he said quietly. Back at the nurse's station, Todd was already spinning the narrative. "Did you see robot nurse refuse to switch during compressions? Total cowboy move. Could have gotten himself hurt. Could have compromised patient care." "He saved the patient's life," a quiet voice interjected. Everyone turned. Dr. Patel stood behind them, chart in hand, expression stern. Rivera maintained perfect compression depth and rate for 6 full minutes. Textbook ACLS. "If everyone on this floor performed half as well during codes, we'd save a lot more lives." Patel's gaze swept across the group. "Perhaps instead of mocking him, you should be asking him to share his technique." Silence fell. Patel walked away, leaving uncomfortable tension in his wake. Jessica turned to Marcus, who'd returned to his computer station. "Where did you really learn to do that?" Marcus didn't look up from his screen. "Previous employment." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting." Todd scoffed. "Whatever, man, keep your secrets. Just don't expect us to treat you like some kind of hero for doing your job." Marcus's fingers paused on the keyboard. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but everyone heard it. "I don't want to be a hero, I just want to be left alone." He finished his charting, grabbed his bag, and walked out into the cool San Diego night. In his truck, he sat in darkness, staring at his hands. They'd stopped shaking during the code. That was good. But now, alone, they trembled slightly, muscle memory from too many codes that ended differently. His phone buzzed. "Commander Harris again, the team's doing night drills next week. You should stop by, they ask about you." Marcus deleted the message without responding. He couldn't go back, wouldn't go back. That life, the brotherhood, the purpose, the adrenaline, had nearly destroyed him. Here, in this fluorescent-lit hospital where people mocked his precision and questioned his silence, he was building something new. Even if they couldn't see it. Even if he wasn't sure, he believed it himself. Marcus started the truck and drove home, the taste of failure and victory equally bitter on his tongue. The man in bed 12 shouldn't have been remarkable. Just another elderly patient admitted for routine cardiac monitoring, 78 years old, retired, living in a La Jolla nursing home. His chart read like countless others Marcus had seen: atrial fibrillation, hypertension, mild cognitive decline. But when Marcus entered the room at 6:15 a.m. for vital signs check, something made him stop cold in the doorway. The old man was awake, sitting upright despite the early hour, his eyes pale blue and razor-sharp, locked onto Marcus with an intensity that cut through the dim morning light. Those weren't the eyes of someone in cognitive decline. Those were the eyes of a predator, still hunting decades after leaving the field. "Morning, Mr. Brennan," Marcus said, maintaining his professional monotone. "I'm Marcus, your nurse today. How are you feeling?" "Cut the script, son." The voice was gravel and whiskey, worn but strong. "You've got the walk." Marcus's hand paused on the blood pressure cuff. "Sir." "The walk," Brennan repeated, his gaze never wavering. Heel-toe, weight distributed, always aware of exits and angles. "You sweep rooms before entering. Been watching you through that window for 20 minutes. You checked the hallway 3 times, positioned yourself with your back never to the door." A cold finger traced down Marcus's spine. "I'm just being thorough with my rounds." "Bullshit," Brennan's laugh was sharp. "I did 2 tours in Nam with SEAL Team 2. Did another 10 years after that nobody talks about. I know what we look like, son. The question is, which team?" Marcus wrapped the blood pressure cuff around Brennan's arm, his movements deliberate and controlled. "You're mistaken, sir. I'm a nurse. That's all." "That's all," Brennan echoed mockingly. "Your hands tell a different story. Look at them." Despite himself, Marcus glanced down. His hands were scarred, small white lines across knuckles, a burn mark on his left palm from a hot rifle barrel in Helmand Province, calluses in places civilian nurses didn't develop them. "Construction work," Marcus said flatly, "before nursing school." "Sure," Brennan's eyes gleamed. "And I'm the Pope, take my blood pressure, hospital corpsman. That's what they call you boys, right? Not medic, corpsman." Marcus's jaw clenched, the cuff inflated with a soft hiss. 120/78, heart rate 72, you're stable, Mr. Brennan." "Brennan's not even my real name," the old man said casually. "Changed it in 74 after some nasty business in Laos. But you understand operational security, don't you, Doc?" "I need to check your IV site." Brennan grabbed Marcus's wrist with surprising strength, not threatening, fraternal, the grip of someone who'd held brothers together under fire. "Look at me, son." Marcus finally met his eyes fully. "There it is," Brennan whispered. "The 1,000-yard stare, how many?" "How many what?" Marcus tried to pull away, but Brennan held firm. "How many did you lose? How many brothers bled out while you worked miracles trying to save them?" The room tilted. Marcus was suddenly back in that compound, Danny's blood hot on his hands, the sucking chest wound that wouldn't seal, the light fading from his friend's eyes while Marcus screamed for a medevac that came too late. "Let go of me," Marcus said quietly. "Not until you admit what you are." Brennan's voice softened. "Not to me, to yourself. You're running, son. I recognize it because I ran too. 20 years I ran, drank myself half to death trying to forget. Know what I learned." Marcus's breathing had quickened despite his training. "What?" "You can't hide from brothers. We see each other, always." Brennan released his wrist, settling back against his pillows. "You did your time, gave everything. Now you're here trying to disappear into a job where nobody knows what you carried. But it doesn't work, does it? Because you're not built for normal anymore." "You don't know anything about me," Marcus said, but his voice cracked on the last word. "I know you chose night shift because there are fewer people to avoid. I know you eat alone because small talk feels pointless when you've held dying men. I know you triple-check equipment because in the field, missing one detail meant body bags." Brennan's eyes glistened. "I know you're drowning, son, and nobody here even sees the water." Marcus's hands trembled, actually trembled, as he updated Brennan's chart on the tablet. He hadn't trembled in front of anyone since his last day in Afghanistan. "What team?" Brennan asked again, gentler now. The words escaped before Marcus could stop them. 3. 8 years attached to SEAL Team 3. Brennan's face transformed. Pride, respect, understanding. Good men in 3 you deployed. 4 times, Iraq twice, Afghanistan twice. Decorations. Marcus hesitated. Bronze Star with Valor, 2 Navy Commendation Medals, Purple Heart. "Jesus Christ," Brennan breathed. "And you're here taking shit from civilians who have never heard a shot fired in anger. Why?" "Because I'm tired," Marcus said, and the honesty of it nearly broke him. "I'm tired of war, tired of watching friends die, tired of being the last voice someone hears before they slip away. I just wanted to save lives quietly, without the weight." "Does it work, the quiet?" Marcus thought of Jessica's mockery, Todd's jokes, the isolation he'd wrapped around himself like armor. "No, but it's better than going back." Brennan nodded slowly. "I get it, I do, but you can't shrink yourself to fit their world, son. You're a warrior. That doesn't go away because you change uniforms." "I'm just a nurse now," Marcus insisted. "Keep telling yourself that." Brennan closed his eyes, suddenly looking every one of his 78 years. "But when the shit hits the fan, and it always does, you'll remember who you really are. They all will." Marcus stood, legs unsteady. "I'll be back to check on you in 2 hours." "Marcus," Brennan's eyes opened one last time. "Who ya, Doc, Semper Fi. You can run from the teams, but you'll always be one of us." Marcus left the room, walking past the nurse's station where Jessica and Todd were laughing over coffee. Neither noticed the way his hands shook. Neither saw the sweat on his brow. Neither understood that a 78-year-old veteran had just detonated every wall Marcus had built in 3 minutes of conversation. In the supply closet, Marcus leaned against the shelves, breathing hard. His phone felt heavy in his pocket. He pulled it out, stared at Commander Harris's last message from weeks ago. "We miss you, Doc." His thumb hovered over the reply button. Then Jessica's voice cut through the door. "Is Rivera hiding in there again? That guy's so weird. Can't even handle normal social interaction." Marcus deleted the message thread, pocketed the phone. When he emerged, his face was stone again, unreadable, the mask firmly back in place. But in room 12, an old SEAL smiled knowingly. Because once you'd seen a brother, you could never unsee him. And Marcus Rivera's camouflage was wearing thin. Friday, 9:47 p.m. St. Catherine's ER had that electric feeling, the kind that came before all hell broke loose. Marcus felt it in his bones, a sixth sense developed over years of anticipating enemy attacks. The ER was too quiet, the calm before the storm. He was restocking trauma bay supplies when the radio crackled to life. "St. Catherine's, this is Medic 47. We have a mass casualty incident on Interstate 5. Tanker truck versus passenger van, secondary collision with 4 additional vehicles. Requesting all available trauma bays. ETA 7 minutes with first critical patient. The charge nurse, Patricia Donovan, went pale. How many casualties? Confirmed 12, possibly more. Multiple criticals. We're calling in off-duty staff, but you'll get the first wave. The ER exploded into controlled chaos. Physicians sprinted from offices. Nurses abandoned paperwork. Jessica shouted orders, her usual smugness replaced with genuine fear. This was beyond their normal Friday night chaos. This was war. Marcus didn't panic. Couldn't panic. His mind shifted into a mode he'd sworn he'd never access again. Combat medicine protocol. He moved through the like a ghost, his hands working independently of conscious thought. "Rivera, what are you doing?" Todd yelled as Marcus began clearing non-critical patients from trauma bays. "Making space," Marcus replied, already repositioning equipment. "We'll need 4 trauma bays operational, 2 surgical teams on standby, and a family waiting area cleared. Move the ankle sprain in Bay 3 to the waiting room. The gastritis in Bay 5 can wait. Now." "You can't just." "Now," the command voice, the one that had once ordered men into gunfights, cut through Todd's protest like a blade. Todd moved. Dr. Sarah Chen emerged from her office, eyes wide at the transformation happening in her ER. Marcus had reorganized the entire floor in 90 seconds. Trauma bays clear. Equipment staged. A triage station set up near the ambulance bay. He'd even grabbed a red marker and was drawing zones on the whiteboard. "Rivera, what is this?" Chen demanded. "Triage protocol, doctor. Red zone for immediate life-threatening injuries. Yellow for delayed treatment. Green for minor injuries. Black for expectant." He wrote the categories with military precision. "Expectant," Jessica's voice wavered. "You mean?" "I mean we might not be able to save everyone." Marcus's eyes were flat, emotionless. "We save who we can save. That's how mass casualties work." The first ambulance screamed into the bay. 18-year-old female, ejected from vehicle, significant head trauma, GCS-6, blood pressure 90/60. Marcus was there before the wheels stopped rolling. One look at the patient, the dilated pupils, the blood pooling from her ears, the decerebrate posturing, and he made the call. "Red tag, trauma 1. Dr. Chen, she needs neurosurgery now." The second ambulance. 42-year-old male, crush injuries to chest and abdomen, difficulty breathing. Marcus cut the paramedic off. His hands were already on the patient, palpating the chest. He felt it immediately. The crackling sensation of subcutaneous air, the asymmetrical chest rise, the distended neck veins. "Tension pneumothorax," he announced. "His lung is collapsed and building pressure. He'll code in the next 2 minutes." Dr. Patel rushed over. "We need to get him too." "No time." Marcus was already grabbing supplies, betadine, large-bore needle. He swabbed the patient's chest at the second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line. The anatomical landmarks were mapped in his mind from 100 field procedures. "Rivera, wait for the doctor too," Jessica started. The needle went in. A hiss of pressurized air escaped, the sound of death being postponed. The patient gasped, his oxygen saturation jumping from 78 to 92 in seconds. "Jesus Christ," Patel breathed. "Where did you learn to do that?" Marcus was already moving to the next ambulance. "Fallujah, Kandahar, Ramadi, take your pick." The next 3 hours blurred into a symphony of controlled violence. Marcus was everywhere, assessing, directing, performing procedures that made the attending physician stop and stare. He placed chest tubes with surgical precision, started difficult IVs on first attempt in patients other nurses had failed on 3 times, intubated a patient when the anesthesiologist was tied up in surgery. Dr. Chen watched it all, her mind racing. This wasn't nursing. This was something else entirely, something forged in places where mistakes meant body bags. At 12:34 a.m., a 16-year-old boy arrived. Multiple lacerations, glass embedded in his face and chest, screaming for his mother who died on impact. Marcus took one look at the kid, the same age as the Afghan teenager he'd failed to save in Helmand, and something inside him cracked. His hands shook, actually shook. "Rivera," a nurse's voice seemed to come from underwater. "Rivera, are you okay?" Marcus saw the Afghan boy's face superimposed over this American teenager's, saw the market square, the suicide bomber, the scattered body parts, Danny pulling him away, saying, "You can't save them all, Doc. You can't save them all." "Rivera," Dr. Chen's hand on his shoulder snapped him back. "I need you here. This boy needs you." Marcus blinked, swallowed hard, his hands steadied through sheer force of will. "Yes, ma'am." He treated the teenager with gentle efficiency, removing glass fragments, suturing lacerations, whispering reassurances the boy couldn't hear through his grief. When it was done, Marcus walked calmly to the staff bathroom, locked the door and stood over the sink. His hands trembled violently now. The adrenaline dump, the post-combat shakes. He gripped the porcelain until his knuckles went white, breathing through the flashback, willing himself back to the present. "You're in San Diego, you're safe, the war is over." But the war was never over. Not really. It just wore different uniforms and spoke different languages. When he emerged, Dr. Chen was waiting in the hallway. Her expression had changed. No more casual curiosity. Now there was something else, recognition mixed with growing suspicion. "My office," she said quietly, "now." Marcus followed, knowing the walls were finally crumbling. In her office, Chen pulled up his personnel file on her computer. "Your resume lists government service for 2015 to 2023, 8 years, no details, no references outside military hospitals." She looked up. "Who are you, Marcus Rivera?" Marcus met her eyes. For a long moment, silence hung between them like smoke. "I'm just a nurse, doctor." "Bullshit." Chen's voice was soft but firm. "I just watched you run a mass casualty incident like a seasoned combat surgeon. You performed procedures I've only seen in military trauma manuals. You triaged 12 patients in 15 minutes with 0 errors." She leaned forward. "So I'll ask again. Who are you?" Marcus's jaw clenched. Someone who just wants to do his job quietly. "That option expired tonight." Chen closed the file. "I'm going to find out, Rivera, one way or another." Marcus stood. "Are we done here?" "For now." He walked out, feeling her eyes burning into his back. In the parking lot, sitting in his truck as dawn painted the sky orange, Marcus pulled out his phone. Commander Harris's latest message. "Doc, I know you want peace, but you and I both know you can't hide from what you are." Marcus stared at the words until they blurred. Then he drove home, wondering how much longer his carefully constructed lie could survive the truth. Tuesday morning, 10:23 a.m. 3 months since Marcus had started at St. Catherine's. The ER was experiencing a rare lull, a handful of routine cases, no codes, no drama. Marcus was in the supply room conducting his daily inventory check, counting bandages with the same methodical precision that drove his colleagues crazy. Jessica walked past, coffee in hand, and couldn't resist. "Still counting gauze pads, Rivera. What are you afraid of, a bandage shortage apocalypse?" Marcus didn't respond, just continued his count, making notes on his clipboard. "God, you're like a robot," she muttered, walking away. Outside, the morning sun painted San Diego in golden light. Patients dozed in their beds. Nurses chatted at the station. Dr. Chen reviewed labs in her office. It was beautifully, perfectly ordinary. Then the sound came. At first it was distant, a rhythmic thudding that could have been construction equipment or traffic, but Marcus's head snapped up, his body going rigid. That sound. He knew that sound in his bones, his blood, his soul. Whump, 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 whump. Rotor blades getting closer fast. The noise grew louder, shaking the windows. Patients looked up confused. Nurses stepped away from their stations, craning their necks toward the ceiling. The fluorescent lights trembled. "What the hell is that?" Todd shouted over the growing thunder. Marcus was already moving, drawn toward the sound like a compass to north. He reached the ER bay entrance just as the Sikorsky MH-60S Seahawk descended toward the hospital's rooftop helipad. Rotor wash sending papers flying, trees bending, car alarms wailing. "Is that a military helicopter?" Jessica asked, shielding her eyes. "Why would?" The helicopter touched down. The rotors continued spinning, ready for immediate takeoff. The side door slid open, and two figures emerged, ducking under the blades as they moved with practiced precision toward the rooftop access door. Hospital Administrator Daniel Morrison burst from his office, face red with confusion and anger. "What in God's name? We didn't authorize." The rooftop access door exploded open. Two naval officers in summer white uniforms descended the stairs, their faces carved from granite, ribbons and insignia declaring them as serious operators. A lieutenant commander and a senior chief. Their eyes scanned the ER with tactical efficiency. The entire department froze. "I need Hospital Corpsman First Class Marcus Rivera," the lieutenant commander announced, his voice cutting through the helicopter noise like a blade. "Immediately." The words hit the ER like a grenade. "Hospital Corpsman First Class." Not nurse, not civilian, corpsman. Every head turned toward Marcus. He stood at the edge of the crowd, his body language completely transformed. Shoulders back, chin up, feet shoulder-width apart, the posture of a man who'd stood at attention 1,000 times. The civilian nurse was gone. In his place stood something else entirely. "Sir," Marcus said, his voice different now, sharper, military crisp. He moved through the stunned crowd, each step measured and precise. Jessica's coffee cup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. She didn't notice. "What's your security clearance, son?" the senior chief asked. "TSSCI Senior Chief, current and active." Top secret, sensitive, compartmented information. Words that meant nothing to most people in that room, but meant everything to the two men in uniform. The lieutenant commander's expression didn't change. "We have a situation at Naval Base Coronado. Training evolution went sideways. Multiple SEAL team operators down. Mass casualty scenario. Command wants their best combat medic on site." He paused. "They want you." "Status of casualties?" Marcus asked, already mentally cataloging equipment he'd need. 4 confirmed critical. Blast injuries, GSWs, 1 possible traumatic amputation. Field medics are stabilizing, but they're requesting advanced trauma support ASAP. Marcus nodded once. "Give me 2 minutes to secure my station and change." "You have 90 seconds, the lieutenant commander corrected. "This is a recall to active reserves. You're operational effective immediately." "Yes, sir." Marcus turned and for the first time really looked at his colleagues. Jessica stood with her mouth open, face pale. Todd had backed against the wall, eyes wide. Dr. Chen had emerged from her office, one hand pressed against her chest. "Rivera," she started. "I'm sorry, Dr. Chen." Marcus's tone was respectful but final. "I have to go, my team needs me." "Your team," Jessica whispered. Your military." The senior chief answered before Marcus could. "Hospital Corpsman First Class Rivera is one of the most decorated combat medics in SEAL team history. 8 years attached to special operations, 4 combat deployments, Bronze Star with Valor, Navy Commendation Medal with Combat V, Purple Heart." He looked at Jessica with something close to contempt. "You've been working alongside a genuine war hero. Thought you should know." The color drained from Jessica's face. Marcus didn't wait for responses. He moved to the staff locker room with purpose, his transformation complete. The quiet, mocked nurse was gone. This was a warrior returning to his element. Todd found his voice, though it shook. "SEAL team, he's been. All this time we thought he was just." "Just what?" Dr. Chen's voice was ice. "Just a weird new nurse. Just someone to mock and belittle." She turned to face her staff, fury in her eyes. "We've been treating a decorated combat veteran like garbage for 3 months." In the locker room, Marcus opened his locker. Behind his civilian scrubs hung his Navy working uniform type III, pressed and ready. He'd kept it there since day one, some part of him knowing this moment would come. Warriors never fully left the fight. He changed in 45 seconds, muscle memory taking over. The uniform fit like a second skin. In the mirror, Hospital Corpsman First Class Marcus Rivera stared back, the man he'd tried to bury beneath civilian clothes and quiet routines. His medical bag was in his truck, staged for rapid deployment, always prepared, always ready, because in the back of his mind he'd known the call would come. When he emerged, the uniform transformed him completely. The staff barely recognized him. This wasn't their awkward, quiet colleague. This was a special operations medical professional, moving with lethal grace and absolute confidence. The naval officers nodded approval. "Outstanding, Doc, let's move." Marcus followed them toward the stairs. At the doorway he paused, looking back one last time. Jessica had tears streaming down her face. Todd looked like he might be sick. Dr. Chen stood straight, something like pride mixing with her shock. "I'll be back when I can," Marcus said simply. "Go save lives," Dr. Chen replied, her voice steady despite everything. "That's what you do." Marcus ascended the stairs 2 at a time. The helicopter rotors increased pitch, preparing for takeoff. Within 30 seconds he was strapped in, headset on, the crew chief giving him a thumbs up. The Seahawk lifted off, banking hard toward Coronado. Through the open door, Marcus watched St. Catharines shrink below him. For 3 months he'd tried to be someone else, tried to find peace in the mundane. But peace was a luxury warriors rarely enjoyed. 7 minutes to target, Doc, the pilot announced through the headset. "SEALs are waiting for you." Marcus closed his eyes, centering himself. His hands were steady now, no trembling, no fear. This was what he was built for, not hospital politics or coffee break small talk. This was where he belonged. In the ER below, Jessica collapsed into a chair, Todd beside her, both staring at the ceiling where the helicopter noise faded into silence. "We mocked a war hero," Todd said, his voice hollow. "We mocked a goddamn war hero for 3 months." Dr. Chen didn't respond. She was already pulling Marcus's full military record, watching as classification levels she'd never seen before flashed across her screen. And finally, she understood exactly who Marcus Rivera really was. The question was, would he come back doctor? Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she entered her administrator credentials into the military records database. She'd done this 3 times before, only to hit the same wall, classified. Access DENIED. But this time was different. This time, she had explicit authorization from the naval officers who just extracted her nurse from her like a covert asset. The screen flickered, then it opened. And Sarah Chen's entire understanding of Marcus Rivera shattered like glass. "Oh my God," she whispered. Behind her, Jessica and Todd crowded around the computer screen, their earlier mockery replaced with dread. What they saw made them both go pale. RIVRA, MARCUS ANTONIO. Rank Hospital Corpsman First Class, HM1. Years of service, 12 years active duty. Specialty, Special Operations Combat Medic. Unit Assignment, SEAL Team 3, 8 years attached. Deployments, 4 Combat Tour Iraq 2, Afghanistan 2. 8 years with the SEALs, Jessica breathed. That's almost unheard of for a corpsman. But it was the next section that made Chen's blood run cold. Decorations and citations. Bronze Star Medal with Valor Device, awarded for heroic achievement in combat operations, Ramadi, Iraq, 2018. HM1 Rivera exposed himself to intense enemy fire to reach 3 wounded SEALs pinned down by machine gun fire. Despite being wounded himself, he successfully treated and evacuated all 3 casualties under continuous fire, saving their lives. Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal with Combat V ×2, First Award, Helmand Province, Afghanistan, 2017. Rivera performed emergency surgical procedures under fire, saving the life of a critically wounded SEAL who had lost both legs to an IED. Second Award, Classified Operation, 2019. Purple Heart awarded for wounds received in action, Ramadi, Iraq, 2018. Shrapnel wounds to left shoulder and back sustained while treating wounded personnel. Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, ×3. Multiple citations for exceptional performance in combat medical operations. Combat Action Ribbon. Presidential Unit Citation. Navy Unit Commendation, ×2. The list went on, medal after medal, citation after citation, a record that read like a movie script. "This can't be real," Todd muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Dr. Chen scrolled further, finding the operational summaries, dozens of them, many with sections blacked out for security clearance. But what remained visible was staggering. Over 400 combat medical evacuations, estimated 73 lives saved in direct combat situations, 0 preventable deaths under his care in 8 years. 0. He never lost a patient he could save, Chen said, her voice filled with awe. In 8 years of combat operations, not one preventable death. Then she found the file that explained everything. Incident Report Classified. Date August 14, 2023. Location Redacted, Afghanistan. Operation Redacted. The details were sparse, most of the mission specifics blacked out, but the core story remained. During a classified operation, SEAL Team 3 came under ambush by enemy forces. Special Warfare Operator First Class Daniel "Danny" Mitchell sustained multiple gunshot wounds to the chest and abdomen. HM1 Rivera performed emergency trauma care under fire for approximately 47 minutes while the team fought to secure an LZ for medevac. Despite Rivera's efforts, including multiple blood transfusions, emergency chest tube placement, and CPR, SO1 Mitchell expired prior to helicopter arrival. Post-action review determined no medical intervention could have saved Mitchell given the severity of injuries and distance from surgical facilities. HM1 Rivera required psychological evaluation following incident. Diagnosed with combat-related PTSD and survivor's guilt. Recommended for medical separation with full honors. The final line hit like a hammer. Rivera requested voluntary transition to reserve status and civilian life. Request approved. This corpsman's service to the SEAL teams has been exemplary and beyond measure. His brothers will miss him. It was signed by the SEAL Team 3 commander. His best friend died in his arms, Jessica said, tears streaming freely now. And we called him Robot Nurse. We mocked him for being quiet, for being thorough. Her voice broke. For trying to make sure nothing ever went wrong again. Dr. Chen found another document, a psychological evaluation from the Naval Medical Center. Subject presence with classic PTSD symptoms, hypervigilance, emotional numbing, intrusive memories, survivor's guilt. Patient repeatedly states he failed to save his brother despite all evidence to the contrary. Recommended treatment. Continued counseling, transition to low-stress medical environment, civilian reintegration. Patient's stated goal: I just want to save lives without watching people I love die. I want to be normal again. He came here to heal, Chen said softly. He came here to find peace, and instead we gave him hell. Patricia Donovan, the charge nurse who'd been silent until now, spoke up from the doorway. I worked at Walter Reed for 10 years. I've seen a lot of combat medics transition to civilian nursing. You know what they all have in common? She looked at each of them. They're the best nurses you'll ever work with because they've seen the worst. They know what matters. We didn't see it, Todd said, his face in his hands. We were so busy judging him, we never saw what he was carrying. Chen pulled up the final document, Marcus's application to St. Catherine's. His essay response to "Why do you want to work in civilian health care?" was simple, heartbreaking. I've spent 8 years watching warriors die despite my best efforts. I want to work somewhere I can save lives without the cost being measured in flag-draped coffins. I want to prove to myself that healing doesn't require violence, that I can be useful without being at war. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of computers and the distant wail of a siren. Jessica wiped her eyes. What have we done? We judged a book by its cover, Patricia said. We saw a quiet man and assumed weakness. We saw his precision and called it obsessive. We saw his professionalism and mocked it as robotic. She shook her head. He was being exactly what his training made him, the best of the best, and we were too blind to see it. Dr. Chen closed the file, her mind reeling. In her ER for 3 months had walked a man who'd saved dozens of lives under gunfire. A decorated combat veteran who'd earned the respect of Navy SEALs, the most elite warriors in the world. A medic so skilled that when catastrophe struck, they'd sent a helicopter to retrieve him because there was no one better. And they'd treated him like an outcast. If he comes back, Jessica started. When he comes back, Chen corrected firmly. When he comes back, things are going to be different, very different. She picked up the phone and called an emergency staff meeting. Every nurse, every doctor, every technician in the ER needed to see what she'd seen, needed to understand who'd been walking among them. On the whiteboard, she wrote a single sentence in large letters. HM1 MARCUSRIVERA hero, warrior, brother. Respect is mandatory. Miles away, Marcus sat in the Seahawks troop compartment, watching San Diego's coastline blur beneath him. The helicopter banked toward Coronado, toward brothers who needed him, toward a fight he'd sworn he'd left behind. But in his heart, he knew the truth that Dr. Chen had just discovered. You could take the warrior out of the war, but you couldn't take the war out of the warrior. His hands were steady, his mind clear, his purpose absolute. Danny's voice echoed in his memory. Save them, Doc, save all of them. 2 minutes to LZ, the pilot announced. Marcus checked his medical bag one final time. Everything in place, everything ready. He was going back to war. One more time. For his brothers. Always for his brothers. The Seahawks skids hit dirt at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado at 11:07 a.m. Marcus didn't wait for full touchdown. He was out the door while the rotors still screamed overhead, medical bag slung across his shoulder, boots pounding toward the training range where smoke billowed black against the perfect San Diego sky. Doc, over here. A SEAL team operator waved frantically from behind a concrete barrier. Marcus covered the 100 yards in seconds, his body remembering every sprint to a casualty, every race against death. The scene that greeted him was chaos incarnate. 4 SEALs down, blood everywhere, the acrid smell of explosives mixed with copper and cordite. A live-fire close-quarter battle drill had gone catastrophically wrong, a flashbang malfunction triggering sympathetic detonation of training charges. 4 of America's most elite warriors lay broken on the kill house floor. Marcus's mind shifted into combat mode instantly. No fear, no hesitation, just cold, calculated action. Situation report, he barked, dropping beside the nearest casualty. Flashbang cooked off early, a staff sergeant shouted over the chaos. Triggered det cord on the door breach. Hayes took the worst of it, possible traumatic amp left leg. Wilson's got penetrating chest trauma. Rodriguez is unconscious, head injury. Thompson's got multiple frag wounds, stable for now but losing blood. Marcus's eyes swept the carnage. His brain automatically running triage calculations honed over hundreds of combat scenarios. He had minutes, maybe less, to prioritize who lived and who died. You, he pointed at the staff sergeant, get me every medic on base. Now, you, pointing at another SEAL, start 2 large-bore IVs on Wilson. You, direct pressure on Hayes's leg. Move. They moved. SEALs didn't hesitate when a combat medic gave orders, not when that medic was legendary. Marcus went to Hayes first, the traumatic amputation. The SEAL's left leg was gone below the knee, bone and tissue torn apart by the blast. His face was ghost white, lips blue, eyes rolling back. Hayes, stay with me. Marcus's hands flew, no wasted motion. Tourniquet high on the thigh, cranked until the arterial bleeding stopped. Someone timed this, write IT on his forehead. A SEAL grabbed a marker, wrote the time on Hayes's forehead, 11:09. The tourniquet clock was ticking. Doc, I can't feel my leg. I know, brother, I know, you're gonna make it, stay strong. Marcus's voice was firm, commanding, but underneath, hidden where only another veteran would hear it, was compassion. He'd said these words before, to Danny, in another desert, another life. But Hayes wasn't Danny. Hayes would live. Marcus moved to Wilson, the chest wound. The SEAL's breathing was rapid and shallow, neck veins distended. Marcus ripped open the uniform, saw the entry wound below the left clavicle. His fingers palpated the chest cavity. Tension pneumothorax. The lung had collapsed, pressure building with every breath, crushing Wilson's heart. Needle decompression now. Marcus didn't wait for supplies. His hands found the second intercostal space, midclavicular line. The large-bore needle punched through skin, muscle, pleura. HSSSSSS. Pressurized air escaped like a deflating tire. Wilson gasped, his oxygen saturation jumping from 74 to 91. His eyes found Marcus, filled with gratitude and terror. Easy, brother, breathe slow. You're good, you're good. 2 casualties stabilized, 2 to go. Rodriguez lay motionless, a massive contusion swelling on his temple. Marcus checked pupils, 1 blown, 1 reactive. Severe traumatic brain injury. The clock was ticking faster here. Brain injuries didn't wait. Where's MY Medevac? Marcus roared. 5 minutes out. Not good enough. Rodriguez had maybe 3. Marcus started an IV, pushed mannitol to reduce brain swelling, positioned Rodriguez's head to optimize blood flow. It was all he could do here. The real fight would be in the OR. Thompson was last, multiple shrapnel wounds but stable. Marcus worked with brutal efficiency, packing wounds, securing bandages, checking vitals. The SEAL was tough, gritting through pain that would drop most men. You're good, Thompson. Gonna have some badass scars for the ladies. Thompson managed a weak grin. Thanks, Doc. Then the sound Marcus had been dreading, the change in Rodriguez's breathing. Agonal gasps, the death rattle. No, Marcus abandoned Thompson, dove back to Rodriguez. His hands found the carotid thread pulse, fatting fast. Don't you fucking die on me. CPR, compressions, airway management. For 3 minutes that felt like hours, Marcus fought death with everything he had. His mind flashed to Danny, same scenario, same desperate fight, same inevitable outcome. No, not this time, not this time. Pulse, someone shouted. I've got a pulse. Rodriguez's chest rose weakly. His heart beat again, fragile, tenuous, but beating. The medevac helicopter thundered overhead, rotors kicking up dust that stung like memories. Corpsmen rushed in with stretchers. Marcus coordinated the evacuation with machine precision. Rodriguez first, then Hayes, then Wilson, then Thompson. Within 8 minutes, all 4 casualties were airborne. racing toward Naval Medical Center San Diego. Marcus stood in the settling dust, covered in blood that wasn't his, surrounded by silent SEALs. His hands shook now, the post-combat tremors he could never control. His vision blurred. For a moment, he wasn't at Coronado. He was in Ramadi, watching Danny's medevac lift off, knowing his brother was already gone. "Doc." A hand on his shoulder. Marcus turned. SEAL Team 3's commander, Captain James Reardon, stood behind him. The officer's face was carved from granite, but his eyes held something else, respect that bordered on reverence. 3 out of 4, Rivera. 3 lives saved because of you. Rodriguez coded twice on the flight. Corpsman said without your intervention, he'd be dead. Marcus said nothing. 3 out of 4. 75%. In his old life, that would be a victory. Now it just felt like another wound that wouldn't heal. "We need you back, Doc," Reardon said quietly. "The teams need you. These men need you." Marcus looked at his blood-stained hands. The same hands that had counted gauze pads 3 times in a quiet hospital. The same hands Jessica had mocked for being too careful. The same hands that had held his best friend while life drained away. "I did my time, sir," Marcus whispered. "Did you?" Reardon's eyes held understanding. "Or did you run from it?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Around them, SEALs gathered, silent, respectful, waiting. These were his brothers. These were the men who understood what he carried, who spoke his language, who knew what it meant to save lives while standing in death's shadow. But back at St. Catherine's were different people, civilians who'd never understand, who'd never know what it meant to perform CPR while bullets snapped overhead, who'd mock his thoroughness because they'd never watched a man die for lack of a single piece of equipment. "I need to get back to the hospital," Marcus said finally. "My shift isn't over." Reardon studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "You know where to find us, Doc. Doors always open. Your SEAL Team family, forever." "Hooya," Marcus replied, the old response automatic. "Hooya, Doc, hooya." The helicopter ride back was silent except for the rotors. Marcus stared at his reflection in the window, still wearing his Navy uniform, still covered in blood, still carrying weight that would never fully lift. St. Catherine's appeared below, small and ordinary and safe. And Marcus still didn't know where he truly belonged. The Seahawk touched down on St. Catherine's rooftop helipad at 2:47 p.m. Marcus stepped out into afternoon sunlight, still in his blood-stained Navy uniform, medical bag heavy on his shoulder. The rotors wound down behind him, but the silence felt deafening after hours of chaos. He descended the stairs slowly, each step carrying the weight of 2 worlds, the one he'd left behind and the one he'd tried to build. His body ached from the adrenaline crash. His hands had finally stopped shaking. But his mind was still on that kill house floor, still hearing Rodriguez's death rattle, still fighting battles that would never truly end. The ER doors opened before he reached them. The entire staff stood waiting. Every nurse, every doctor, every technician, lined up like an honor guard, their faces a mixture of shame, awe, and something Marcus hadn't seen directed at him in months: respect. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped forward first. Her eyes were red, her professional composure cracked. "Marcus, thank God you're back. How are the casualties?" 3 stable, 1 critical but alive, Marcus reported automatically. All 4 evacuated to Naval Medical Center. Prognosis good for 3, uncertain for Rodriguez. Chen nodded, tears threatening. "You saved them." "I did my job." "No," her voice cracked. "You did what only you could do, what maybe 5 people in the entire country could do." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "I accessed your military record. I know who you are now, what you've done, what you've survived." Marcus's jaw tightened. His service record was supposed to be his private burden, not public knowledge. "We all know," Jessica's voice came from behind Chen. She stepped forward, mascara streaked down her cheeks, her usual confidence completely shattered. We know everything, the deployments, the medals, the lives you saved, what you lost. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her for the first time, saw genuine remorse carved into her features. Jessica, he started. No, please let me say this. She took a shaking breath. For 3 months we mocked you. We called you robot nurse. We made fun of your thoroughness, your silence, your professionalism. We treated you like you were incompetent when you were. Her voice broke completely. When you were a decorated war hero who'd saved more lives in combat than all of us combined will save in our entire careers. Todd stepped forward next, his usual cockiness gone, replaced by hollow shame. I called you weird, obsessive. I made jokes about everything you did. He couldn't meet Marcus's eyes. I didn't know you checked equipment 3 times because in war zones, missing one detail meant body bags. I didn't know you were quiet because you'd seen and done things we can't imagine. I didn't know, his voice cracked. We didn't know we were working alongside a genuine hero. I'm not a hero, Marcus said quietly, the words automatic. How many times had he said them? To Danny's mother, to award ceremonies, to himself in mirrors at 3 a.m. You are, Dr. Chen said firmly. Bronze Star with valor. You exposed yourself to enemy fire to save 3 SEALs. You performed surgery under fire. You've saved over 70 lives in combat situations. She held up the printed records. 0 preventable deaths in 8 years of war. 0, Marcus. Do you understand how extraordinary that is? Marcus looked at the papers, his life reduced to citations and statistics. They didn't mention the nightmares, the survivor's guilt, the way he still woke up at 300 every morning, reaching for weapons that weren't there, listening for mortars that would never come. I also lost one, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. My best friend, Danny Mitchell. He died in my arms in Afghanistan because I wasn't good enough, fast enough, skilled enough. Stop. Patricia Donovan, the charge nurse, stepped forward. She was older, a veteran herself with 20 years at Walter Reed before San Diego. I worked with combat medics for 2 decades, son. I've read your incident report. I know what happened to Operator Mitchell. Her eyes were fierce with understanding. No medical intervention could have saved him. The review board said so. Your command said so, but you're still punishing yourself. Marcus's composure finally cracked. His voice shook. I should have done more, should have. You did everything, Patricia said gently. You held your brother for 47 minutes under fire. You gave him every chance. And when he died, you honored him by continuing to save others. That's not failure, Marcus. That's courage. The ER fell silent. Somewhere a monitor beeped. An ambulance siren wailed in the distance. Normal hospital sounds, safe sounds, sounds without gunfire or screams or death. Jessica stepped closer, no longer the smug lead nurse who'd mocked the quiet new guy, just a woman who'd learned a terrible lesson about judgment. We're so sorry. We were awful to you, cruel. We didn't deserve to work alongside you. You didn't know, Marcus said, exhaustion seeping into every word. I didn't want you to know. I came here to escape all of that, to be just a nurse, to save lives without carrying weapons, to find peace in the mundane. He looked around at all of them. I didn't want to be the war hero. I wanted to be normal. You saved 4 SEALs today, Chen said softly. The Navy will want you back, full active duty. Name your assignment, you know that, right? Marcus thought about Captain Reardon's offer, the respect in his brother's eyes, the clarity of purpose that came with combat medicine, the teams where he belonged, where he was understood, where his skills weren't mocked but celebrated. Then he thought about Mr. Chen in his hospital bed, thanking him for his gentleness, about the teenage gunshot victim who'd lived because Marcus didn't freeze, about finding peace in counting gauze pads and organizing supply carts, about choosing to heal without destroying. I'm staying, Marcus said firmly. This is where I need to be. But they need you, Todd started. They have other medics, good ones. Marcus met their eyes each in turn. But I need this. I need to prove I can save lives without war, that I can be useful without violence, that there's purpose in the quiet moments, not just the chaos. Dr. Chen smiled through her tears. Then you're staying exactly as you are, a nurse, our nurse. She paused. Though I am offering you a trauma team leadership position. No raise, just recognition. You've earned it. Marcus considered, then shook his head. I appreciate it, but no, I'd rather work quietly, just part of the team, no special treatment, no hero worship, just normal. Deal, Chen agreed, but the mockery stops, everyone clear. Nods all around. Jessica and Todd looked like they'd aged years in hours. Can we, Jessica hesitated, can we start over properly this time? Marcus extended his hand. Marcus Rivera, Hospital Corpsman First Class Inactive Reserve, civilian nurse, just trying to do some good. Jessica took it, her grip firm despite her trembling. Jessica Chen, lead nurse, apparently terrible at first impressions. It's an honor to work with you. Todd shook next. Todd Martinez, idiot who talks before thinking. I'd be honored to learn from you. One by one, the staff came forward. Handshakes, apologies, respect earned not through rank or medals but through character revealed under pressure. When the crowd dispersed, Marcus headed to the locker room to change. He hung his Navy uniform carefully, running his fingers over the ribbons one last time. Part of him would always be Hospital Corpsman First Class Rivera, but another part, maybe the part that needed healing most, was just Marcus, just a nurse. In the chapel during his break, Marcus sat alone in the quiet. He pulled out his phone, found the photo he carried everywhere, Danny Mitchell in desert camas, grinning that cocky SEAL grin, arm around Marcus's shoulders. Brothers. Still saving lives, Danny, Marcus whispered to the image. 3 more today. Rodriguez almost didn't make it, but he did, because you taught me to never quit, never give up on a brother. His voice cracked. I miss you every day, but I'm still fighting, just in a different way now. He texted Danny's mother, saved 3 SEALs today at Coronado. Thought of Danny every second. He'd be proud. I'm still keeping our promise. Her response came immediately. He is proud. So am I. You honor him. Every life you save, sweetheart. Every single one. Marcus returned to the ER floor as the sunset painted San Diego orange and gold. Jessica nodded respectfully as he passed. Todd offered a genuine smile. The mockery was gone, replaced by something better, understanding. At his station, Marcus began his evening routine, checking equipment, organizing supplies, counting gauze pads with the same precision that had once saved lives under fire. Still counting, Rivera? A voice asked. Marcus turned. It was Patricia, smiling warmly. Always, he replied, old habits. The best ones, she agreed, the ones that keep people alive. She walked away, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. Outside, the sun sank below the horizon. Somewhere, his SEAL brothers were training, fighting, preparing for battles he'd no longer face. But here, in this quiet ER with its beeping monitors and shuffling footsteps, Marcus Rivera had found something he thought war had stolen from him. Purpose, peace, a reason to keep fighting. Not with weapons, but with skill. Not in deserts, but in hospitals. Not as a warrior, but as a healer. And for the first time since Danny died, that felt like enough. Marcus pulled up his first patient chart of the evening, fingers steady, mind clear, heart finally beginning to heal. He was home. Not in the war. Not running from it. But here in the space between, where heroes learn to be human again. The end.